All right, so let's dive into commercial real estate today. We always hear about these Class A, Class B, Class C properties, but what do those classifications actually tell us when we're looking at a property?
Yeah, it's almost like a secret code, right?
Yeah.
Investors use those classifications to quickly size up a property, figure out if it's worth their time.
And time is money, especially in the real estate world.
Absolutely.
So we're going to break it all down today using this article we found from Ally's Commercial Realty, big players in the commercial real estate space, called Understanding Class A, B, and C Properties. Now, right off the bat, the article says these classifications are supposed to help investors figure out the quality of a property, how much money they could make from it. Seems pretty straightforward, but I'm guessing there's a little more to it than that, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's not just about what the building looks like on the outside. It's a really quick way to figure out if a property is high risk, high reward, or something else entirely. Like, take a Class C building. It might need a ton of work, but you could also get it for a steal, and those renovations could lead to a huge payoff. On the flip side, a Class A property might have amazing rent potential, but there might not be as much room for appreciation.
It's about knowing what you're getting into and what you're looking for.
Right.
Risk versus reward.
Exactly.
Okay, so the article breaks down the main things that make these classes different, and it all starts with location, which makes sense, but we're not just talking about like what the address is or the zip code or...
Nope. Location in commercial real estate, it's about the neighborhood, what's around the property. Think about it. Is it a popular spot for certain businesses? How many people are walking by? What kind of businesses are nearby? All of that plays a part in what kind of tenants you're going to attract to your property.
So a Class A building in a high-demand area, that's probably going to command those top-tier rents.
Yeah.
But then a Class C building that's maybe a little rough around the edges, but it's in an up-and-coming neighborhood, that could be a really good investment in the long run.
Exactly. You got to think about what the future holds.
See a potential.
Exactly.
So beyond just location, the article also talks about features and amenities. Now, this is where I feel like we really start to picture those, luxury Class A buildings.
For sure. Think like top-of-the-line fitness centers, rooftop decks for those swanky events, maybe even concierge services. Those extras, they draw in a certain type of tenant.
Yeah.
Companies, people who are doing really well and want that image, that convenience, and they're happy to pay for it.
But that doesn't mean Class B and C properties are just like bare bones.
No,
right?
not at all. Class B properties, they often find that middle ground. They might have a gym, but it's not going to be as over the top.
Right.
It's more about being practical. And then Class C, they focus on the essentials, making sure the space is functional, it's well-maintained, even if it doesn't have all the bells and whistles.
It's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
You've got different perks for different needs and different budgets. Now, I think it's really interesting how this all connects to a building's age and its condition, which is the next thing the article dives into.
Totally. When you're looking at a building's age and condition, it really tells you a story about the building, its history. Like a brand new Class A building, it's all about that modern design, those high-end finishes. But it might also mean you're paying a premium price, and it might not gain value as quickly as other properties.
It's like buying a brand new car, right? The minute you drive it off the lot, it loses value.
Exactly. So sometimes in commercial real estate, a little bit of that history can actually be a really good thing for a property.
Right, character. So we're talking about those cool Class B buildings, maybe with the exposed brick, those kinds of things.
Yeah. Think about those spaces. Maybe they're downtown, they've got the brick walls, the big wooden beams, they've been around for a while, they might have needed some updates, but that's part of what makes them unique.
They've got that cool factor you can't just manufacture.
Exactly.
But the article does mention older buildings, especially Class C properties, might need more upkeep, maybe even some bigger renovations. So if someone's thinking about investing in that type of property, how do they wrap their heads around those extra costs?
That's where you really have to do your homework. You can't skip the due diligence. You got to factor those costs in, get a professional to inspect the building, and look closely at the financials. You don't want any surprises.
It's all about potential, but then balancing that with being realistic about how much work, how much investment it might need.
Exactly. You said it. Now, the last thing the article talks about, it's a big one, is the tenant profile. Who's actually using the building, leasing the space? Because that can really make or break your investment.
This is what I think is really fascinating. It's not even just about collecting those rent checks every month. It's really about building a community in that property. So let's break it down. Who are we typically picturing as tenants in those Class A properties?
Well, picture those big companies, the ones that are already established, law firms, financial companies, those types of businesses. They're the ones who want that prime location, a building that makes a statement. They want their clients to be impressed.
Yeah.
And they're willing to pay for it.
The address is almost like a status symbol.
Exactly. Now, Class B properties, you're going to see different kinds of tenants. Maybe it's businesses that are growing, creative agencies, tech companies that have outgrown that, working in the garage phase.
They need more space, but they're maybe not ready for that super high-end high-rise.
Right. They want a space that reflects who they are. But they also want to be mindful of their budget.
That makes sense.
And then there's Class C. Those spaces tend to draw in startups, freelancers, nonprofits, those groups that are just getting off the ground or need to keep costs low.
They're the innovators, the ones who are going to shake things up.
Exactly. And here's where things get interesting. The lines between the classes, they can start to blur, especially as neighborhoods change.
Oh, really? Tell me more about that.
So think about it. You've got a Class C building, might need some work, but it's in a neighborhood that's starting to get trendy. Suddenly, that building, if you put a little love into it, it becomes really attractive to those Class B tenants who want something different, something with some character.
So one person's fixer-upper is another person's hidden gem.
Exactly. And that's what makes these classifications so interesting. You're not just putting a label on a building and saying it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's about really understanding what's going on in the market, what kind of businesses are out there, and then, finding the diamond in the rough.
Yeah, it's like you can get a head start, right? See what's coming down the pipeline, see what's hot, what's not.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And it goes even deeper than that. These classifications, they can actually show us what's going on in the broader economy. Let me ask you this. When the economy takes a hit, when things slow down, what do you think happens to those Class C properties?
I would guess they're probably the ones that are hit the hardest. Am I right?
You're on the right track.
Rents probably go down, lots of empty units, especially because a lot of those are smaller businesses that might not be doing so well when the economy is down.
Absolutely. When the economy is struggling, Class C properties, they're the ones on shakier ground. Those smaller tenants might not make it, and then suddenly the owners have a bunch of vacancies. It can be tough.
But that could also be an opportunity, right, for investors who are willing to take a little bit of a gamble.
Exactly. High risk, high reward. A Class C building in a struggling market, it might seem like a risk, but if things turn around, if the economy picks back up, those rents start going up, and that's when you can see a big return on your investment.
You got to know what you're doing.
Exactly. It's all about timing.
But it's interesting because you would think those Class A buildings, those are the safe bets, right? But even those have their own risks.
Oh, absolutely. Because even when things are rough, those big companies, they might need to downsize. Maybe they move to a different city, and suddenly those Class A landlords have empty units they weren't expecting.
It just goes to show you can't just look at the label of Class A, B, or C and know everything. You got to dig a little deeper.
You got it. Now, before we wrap things up here, I want to circle back to those amenities we were talking about. They're not just about making the tenants happy. They can really make a difference in how much a property is worth over time.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Think about it. You've got a Class A building with a gym, super fast internet, maybe even childcare. Those things, they matter to people. And those tenants, they're more likely to stick around. So those amenities, they add value, which means those owners can charge more for rent even as the building gets older.
It's like investing in the future of the building.
Exactly. And that's why we're spending so much time talking about these classifications. It's not about slapping a label on something. It's about really understanding what makes a property valuable, what its potential is, and how it all fits into the big picture of the economy.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive on Class A, B, and C properties, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this?
I want everyone to remember that the more you know, the better decisions you can make. Whether you're an investor, a business owner, or just someone who's curious about those buildings we see every day, understanding commercial real estate, it gives you a real advantage.
Knowledge is power.
That's it.
I love it. Well, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Until next time, stay curious out there. Get in touch with Allies Commercial Realty at info@alliescommercialrealty.com to find your ally in commercial real estate.